It won't go away. I've got that feeling rushing through my body. I know that it is here to stay. It's like you're my personal Illuminati. I know that some might say that I am just a bad girl, but if you treat me right, I will be the best girl in this whole world. No, I'm not gonna fight. I got my hands on your body, so tell me what you want me to do. I can be good or be naughty, because there ain't nobody love you like I do, 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 listen and relax. From here on, you don't have to say a word. So just let go and don't hold back. I've got you, welcome you into my world. I know that some might say that I am just a bad girl, but if you treat me right, I will be the best girl in this whole world. No, I'm not gonna fight. I got my hands on your body, so tell me what you want me to do. I can be good or be naughty, because there ain't nobody love you like I do, like I do, like I do, like
Bitcoin bulls were certainly not prepared for this, as Bitcoin looks to be on a very precarious cliff. In fact, I see orders coming in for people screaming to short sell. So we're going to break the market down. Meanwhile, the United States regulators look at Libra's proposed project and are like, whoa, we're going to need to dot a whole lot more T's and cross a whole lot more I's. Or something like that. Maybe flip that around, reverse it. Before we move forward with it, and what can Bitcoin learn from Libra's struggles to push forward their stable currency? Meanwhile, over in Bitfinex land, the Tether Treasury has fired up that printing press with 20 million of their new CNHNT hitting the market and ready to go. So, were you ready for another round of manipulation and not being sure exactly what Bitcoin is doing? Well, we're going to break it down in today's exciting episode of Breaking Bitcoin. Let's go. That was a good one. Hey guys, welcome to Breaking Bitcoin, recorded live here in the studio. Today is Tuesday. I don't even know what the day is. It's the 10th of September. Lovely day of September 2019. Foul year of our Lord, however. I am Justin Wise, lead host and senior mentor, lead analyst and senior mentor, but also the lead host, I guess, yes, at crackingcryptocurrency.com. Hopefully you guys are doing absolutely fantastic wherever you happen to be tuning in from. And whether you're tuning in from across YouTube, Twitch, DLive, Facebook, or of course on Roku, with the Investor News Channel app. If you want to support the show, make sure to subscribe, follow, share, even the people you don't like, and engage in that beautiful live chat that we got over there. And thumbs ups are mandatory. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show. We've got a fantastic, I don't even know where to start. we've got a fantastic show for you guys today. We're going to talk about a whole lot. We're going to break a whole lot down. I want to talk about the market a lot today, as I always do. So I want to get over into the charts. But before I do, how you guys doing? I want to thank this month's crypto comment giveaway sponsor, of course, Spectre Security Coin. Make sure to check them out at spectresecurity.io if you want your project, your blockchain, or your website to be revamped for security. All right, guys, let's slide over into the live scene, pick a winner, and get into the market, guys. Of course, today's episode is brought to you by the Kraken Cryptocurrency Premium Trading Group. More on that in a second. Let's slide. All right. Coming to you live from the Mad Hatter's domain, guys. All right, let's do this. Stamp the table. We'll be doing a whole lot of stamping, man. Here we are in the live stream. We're going to pick a random winner here today. We're going to just ding. David Rice, he says, did the Bulls go home till Christmas? Well, you know what they say, man. The end of the summer doldrums. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. Make sure you guys go check out yesterday's video too if you haven't had a chance to. It was, but where are all the bulls at the opening bell of Bitcoin? The future of stable coins and BTC hash rates. We talked about trouble that stable coins might face, finding wide adoption as far, and as well, we talked about the, at least my point of view, the fallacious argument, I think, about scaling, about microtransactions, about network, transmutability, all these things I think that people have the wrong argument of, especially when it comes to Bitcoin. But it is a germane argument in the realm of stablecoins. So I think that is pretty decent argument to have. But anyways, congratulations, David Rice. Get a hold of me in the Discord. Smash the table, Justin. Do it for James at the water cooler. Come on, guys. All right. Let's get over into the scene. We've got actually XRPU19 hold up here. Don't worry. Sorry, guys. It'll never happen again. I'll look at something different. We'll go over to Bitcoin. And we'll just pull it up, open on the ByBit chart. Just give you guys, well, first we'll just start off with where I'm at with my position and where we're at with the market and kind of what we're looking for moving forward. Obviously, I am still short on Bitcoin. Held my short open from yesterday. Actually, I had held it open on Friday. It was when I opened my position. And as I talked about through the weekend, there was a 4-hour LSMA signal that fired. That is exactly why I entered into my position. So that's one of my strategies that I do have optimized for the 4-hour time frame. The reason why it's called LSMA is because it relies on linear regression models. It is not a reversion to the mean. It is a breakout or breakdown. Now, you always want to be cautious. Oh, hey, let's turn the music off. Sorry about that. Now, you always want to be cautious when you're entering into a momentum trade on a very large candle like Bitcoin, because as we often see, these big breakdown candles, I'm going to say about a third of the time, they just continue carrying on right in that same direction. But more often than not, you do get that slight retracement, or sometimes a significant retracement, either a 50%. Sometimes you get a complete retracement of that bearish engulfing candle. And the thing to watch out for as well, and why I kind of said that, said what I said to the premium members on Friday when I posted the trade and I made my market updates for Friday evening, was, I'm expecting price to actually slide up to 10,550, 10,600. Because it's Saturday, we're going into the weekend. The bears have made their move on Friday. It was kind of it was a strong movement. Take no doubt about that. It was a 3% candle movement on one 4-hour candle. But regardless, moving into the weekend, the weekends are often quite bullish. They're often high volatility because there's not a lot of volume in the market. You see a massive dry up of volume. And because of that, you see a resultant increase in volatility on the weekend. So I'm always cautious about shorting Bitcoin on the weekends, but I knew it was the right position to be in. I just knew I would have to suffer some drawdown most likely, and that's what I did. Now we've already hit take profit 1 on the short trade, so we're just holding it open. I'm potentially considering adding more to my position at this level. This isn't really the most attractive price level that I'd like to add it to. I would like to see price come up a little bit closer to my average entry around the 10,300s. But we'll see what happens. I know that, a lot of the traders that I chat with, I know a lot of them really are looking at this last 4-hour candle and feeling quite dire about it. Let's actually zoom in because I feel sometimes you guys don't really see well. All right. So anyways, they're looking at this last 4-hour candle close as quite dire. In fact, In fact, I got a lot of messages when this 4-hour candle closed here at 11 o'clock, about an hour and 8 minutes ago. And a lot of people were telling me that they were going to go ahead and enter into their shorts at this level if they weren't already short, or they were going to add to their position. And I think that's fine. I don't think there's anything wrong about that. I definitely see where they're coming from. But unfortunately, I think a lot of them place their stops at the top of this 4-hour candle. And I just don't really think that's the right move. I really would like to see price play out a little bit from a price action perspective, in the realm of price action, if I were to scale more into a further short, because Bitcoin has this amazing capacity, more so than other assets, of, giving you all the indications that price is going to move in a certain direction and then hitting your stop. So I never like to be that guy. That's why I set the stop the way that I do with my strategy. But anyways, let's move on from that. So overall, we'll start from the daily and work our way down. And to do this, we'll first bring up our indicators to see where they're at, to let them give us some guidance. I think I just stuttered there. Wow, that was crazy. All right, so not CC EMA, sorry, baseline. All right, so and make sure our baseline is programmed correctly. Okay, good. We have the 13 daily exponential moving average. If we actually look at what happened yesterday, I want to actually pull open the data window and let's see. So yesterday's close was 10,304 and yesterday's baseline was 10,306. You can see that if you open up the data window, if you have these indicators on your chart. Of course, you can be using the CC EMA indicator. You do have to be a premium subscriber to get access to the baseline, because then it does the volatility expander as well. But I haven't even released that one yet. It is the volatility expander right here. And we'll talk about that more here in a little bit. But anyways, insofar as that, let's pull back open that baseline and just talk about that. And what does that mean for price? So the baseline did not act as a dynamic level of support and resistance. I mean, it did in a sense. There was definitely a trade to be taken off of the daily baseline. Intraday, one could have placed their bid there and took the slight trade to the upside, although the resultant down move, the sweep to kick stops was pretty significant. So a lot of people, and again, yesterday, a lot of people, as I was going to bed last night, a lot of people were feeling quite bullish. They were looking at the lower time frames on Bitcoin, and they were seeing it creep up toward the evening hours, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, midnight. That was a little bit past when I was awake, but definitely from 9 to 11 p.m. Central Time is when I started getting a lot of messages, and people were feeling quite bullish about Bitcoin. And I was not feeling it. The reason why is because we closed below the daily baseline. And that for me is a nail in the coffin. So now we've actually progressed a little bit in price from my morning analysis when I woke up this morning and did my first scan of the market this morning, because Minx is now below the zero line. Minx was not below the zero line previously, and that is coming in off that pretty good sell action that we just had off that last 4-hour close. Interestingly enough, time transformation was already below the zero line, and Wadatar explosion had already flipped bearish. Now, what's nice about this is the 4-hour LSMA strategy of mine got me into the short trade, I would say early. And so basically what I'm doing now is I'm porting those numbers over to a daily time frame trade. And now I'm monitoring my trade on the daily time frame, because the entry off the 4-hour has already played out. In fact, properly speaking, had I not ported that trade over to the daily, and was I not looking for the 4-hour to give me the entry for the daily time frame setup, then the daily would not have given me as opportune an entry. In fact, this last little ranging cycle, which the daily is designed to do, this last little ranging cycle resulted in one losing long trade instead of a successful, now a locked in successful short trade and potentially a rescale. And these are all nuances that come when you build your strategy out and when you flesh it out to do exactly what you want to do. But we have to understand what the daily is designed to do. The daily is designed to filter out the preponderance of poor signals and get us into good, strong trending signals. Now, if you're looking for intraday setups, if you're looking for basically what I'd like to say, things to keep you busy or profitable trades, don't get me wrong, profitable trades, while your daily trend is playing out, then you're going to have to devise another strategy that you are going to run in tandem with your primary long short strategy on your major asset pairs. Now, when we look at Bitcoin, I just want to put this into the macro perspective. When we look at Bitcoin right now, We are still contracting. Volatility is still decreasing. The ATR continues to drop. The ATR value continues to fall, meaning our take profit levels are going to be closer and closer, and our stop loss is going to be closer and closer. We have this boundary of volatility that is tightening up. We are descending. If we look at what the classical analysts are saying, we are descending further and further into this descending triangle or falling wedge type pattern. I do not think even so. This coming from somebody who has studied Bulkowski's chart patterns, who has read the Encyclopedia of Chart Patterns, who traded chart patterns for years. This is not a wedge of any sort. This is not a bullish formation. This is a bearish formation. It has a 73% chance to resolve to the downside, according to the book. Now, having said that, so I do think that people's bullish interpretation of this is misplaced. Now, having said that, you guys know how I feel about chart patterns, because even though I say they break 73% of the time to the downside, those are that's based on the book, right? I'm just quoting a book. In my experience, and from the research that's been done, for example, by I'm going to quote it miscorrectly. It's a Fed bank. They sponsored the research. And there's been quite a few studies on this. You know what? I'll have to make a video on that sometime and actually link the articles, because I'm gonna have to go dig them up. But there's been some good investment bank research on chart patterns and actually looking at how they play out. Now, again, keep in mind those reports are going to be generated on stocks and equities. By the way, I don't know if you guys noticed, but we got Satoshi live in the house, baby. Yeah. We got that old chair right on out of here. It's behind the green screen. You guys can't see it. And honestly, it's just clogging up. It's just clogging up my space. I talked to my friend earlier, and honestly, here's the thing. I got too many dang chairs around my house. I'm not going to lie. You know, I was thinking about I don't really quite know what I'm going to do with that chair. I was thinking about keeping it for my son because he likes to play video games, but we moved the PS4 out into the living room, and it's no longer in the den. So, and there's couches and chairs and lazy boys galore out there. So, honestly, I got too many houses. So, I need somebody to come pick up these dang chairs. I will call you back. Can we call him Block Chair? Craigslist the gaming chair. Well, I had a friend hit me up who was interested in the chair, so I'll probably just give it to him. But otherwise, it's just gonna sit there behind that green screen. It's just gonna sit there behind that green screen. You guys are lucky I got that green screen up. Like half of my office is really, really nice, and then the other half is nothing but computer parts. It's well organized, but it's computer parts and it's monitors, and I do my staking back there. I've got computers set up to do staking, and so it's nice. Nice controlled chaos. Craigslist the gaming chair. Someone will buy it. Why do I use a green screen? It's 2019, bruh. Because then I can come to you live from the Mad Hatter's office right here. I like it. I have started and not finished about 4 talking points in 5 minutes. Hey, man. Welcome to the show. Love you, brother. The chair's name is Satoshi. We already did the giveaway, guys. We already did the competition. Raffle it with an autograph. Hell yeah. Cook them steaks. You know, sometimes I come in here and it's going to be like an interesting show, but this one's definitely going to be interesting. I'm going to get in mood, guys. And we're going to talk about why I'm in a good mood here in a little bit. So anyways, getting back to the daily, we look like we're going to be closing below the daily baseline, which is a qualifier for a short signal. Minx is crossing and closing below the 0 line, which is an indication to go short. Wadatar explosion is not confirming the trade. Now, it's possible that you are using different settings for Wadatar explosion. I've talked about this a lot of times, guys. The people who come on and copy pasta my strategy are not going to do as well as the people, and I know this from experience because I mentor a lot of students in teaching this strategy. The people who copy pasta my strategy compared to the people who build their own strategy, whether or not they use my own indicators, they do their own back testing, they use their own settings, they put the work in. They do so much better. All right, they do so much better. The people that, because I really would like to train a generation of traders who can outperform me, right? I've made a living of this for quite a while. I am able to provide for my needs. I am able to trade at a professional level, and I don't answer to anybody, and it's quite a rewarding lifestyle. I try to share this lifestyle with other people, but it does require a lot of work, guys. But I just wanted to kind of point that out. Now, in saying that, it's possible that you are going to be using slightly different settings for Wada Atar Explosion, because we have to understand that the default settings for Wada Atar Explosion, are for Wada Atar to be used as its own indicator. If you are looking for Wada Atar Explosion to confirm other trades, to act as a losing trade filter, you are going to need to adjust your settings. You're going to need to adjust your settings. There's no way around it. The default, I got this question. I got 3 of these questions in the last 2 days. People, because I made a code update to Wada Atar Explosion, and then I got some people that DM'd me and they're like, hey, this indicator doesn't work very well on the 15-minute time frame. I don't know what you want from me, man. Did you adjust the settings? Did you adjust it to your chart? Did you back test it? It's not magic, man. So chart patterns, Fed bank study. Okay, so there were well-funded studies on chart patterns. I know that I want to say it's the Federal Bank of, I want to say it Chicago, but I'm not exactly sure. But I know that they were responsible for one of the studies, and there is no statistical edge in trading chart patterns. There is no reliable edge. If you would trade every chart pattern based on its nature, head and shoulders, cup and handles, triangles, wedges, alley-oops, whatever, it doesn't matter. And this is why I really have very little taste for chart patterns, because they're just one of those things that you can see everywhere. They're highly subjective. They're impossible to backtest. Because the reason why is because the same with trend lines. Everybody's going to draw their trend line differently, right? Like, for example, I have these trend lines up here so I can talk about what other analysts are looking at. And so I can point out what they're talking about, valid things to talk about, non-valid things to talk about, the dangers of using this type of analysis. And I get messages like, hey, man, I don't really like where your trend line is painted. Don't you know that according to Elliott Wave book 672 that you're supposed to draw your trend line? No, doesn't matter. Your interpretation of a trend line is not the same as anybody else's interpretation of a trend line. That's why this stuff doesn't really work very well in trading. When it works well, it works well. And then when it doesn't, you don't know what to do. You get that analysis paralysis, as opposed to having a trading strategy that you know what to do any single time. And sometimes what to do is take a loss. Ben Shapiro. Yes, Ben Shapiro. Still comes down to risk management. I like the triple Lindy double helicopter. Yes. Wendy says, this price action kind of feels like a fake out to me. It feels like accumulation in my opinion, but we don't trade our opinion now, do we? We do not. Hey man, I like Elliott Waves. Andrew, you're banned from the chat. Anyways, so baseline's bearish. Closing below the baseline, Minx is bearish, Wada Atar Explosion is bearish, not confirming a signal, but that's going to depend on your own settings for Wada Atar Explosion. I'm already in a short. I think the trade is to the short. Now let's go and look at, now that we've gone over that, I do want to continue to point out the 30 period Donchian, which I think is really good. Now you can accomplish this if you guys go pull up CC Ichimoku, and if you disable everything except the Kijun-san or the baseline, and you give it a period of 30. This is I've got actually more than a handful of students now that are using this as their trend line, as their baseline. Funny enough, the term baseline comes from Ichimoku, where you have the conversion line, i.e. the Tenkan-san, and the baseline, i.e. the Kijun-san. So little fun fact for the day that you can impress your friends with at parties. Do a giveaway for the chair. Oh, what's up, Matt? Good to see you, man. I don't have a problem with that. That's fine. But I did have somebody that is a pretty good friend of mine reach out to me and said that they were interested in the chair for their son. So I'll let you guys know how that plays out. Maybe I can talk him into taking a road trip to the Midwest. We'll see. Let's see. What do I want to talk about here? We will look at Quadriga ATR targets. We'll look at Quadriga ATR targets, even though we aren't getting a confirmed short signal on the daily. That's going to be putting us down at 96.96, 9,200, and 87.04. Now, we're going to look at GBTC. We're going to look at CME futures, and we're going to look at a few other things as well. And I've been talking about that $8,700 level for a while. Not necessarily in the last couple of days, but last week I was. And let's see, what do I want to go to now? And volatility expander. So we'll talk about buyback levels on the daily for ByBit. 97.94. 97.94 is volatility expander showing support, and 10.786 showing resistance, right? With our baseline at 10.290. Okay. So take that as you will, play that as you will. That would mean that, one would be looking to take profit on a short at that 97.80 and potentially looking to buy back at that area. Or if you're looking for some other type of analysis to confirm the trade, that's absolutely fine. Looking at daily EMAs, again, the only thing that we have kind of looming down below us is that $9,800 level. And we talked about that $9,800 level yesterday. It was Zero Cool who pointed out the 4-hour OB, and I think that is interesting. And we'll talk about sweeping and price action behavior here in just a second, but that has some nice confluence with that level as well. And before I misquote it, I just want to make sure. Yes, that is going to be our 100 period exponential moving average, which did kind of support price on the drop back down. Now, I'm not really looking for support levels. I'm not bullish on Bitcoin. I'm just talking about potential areas. And again, I don't think that Bitcoin comes like a thief in the night, man. We're getting really, really, really close to the end of this consolidation period. We're getting to the point where everybody is kind of looking at the chart. Here's the thing about self-fulfilling prophecies, right? There is no logical reason. There is no fundamental reason why Bitcoin doesn't have to do anything but trade sideways right on out of this chart pattern, right? There is nothing incumbent upon any of the market participants to move price in a certain direction. But you will often see toward the end of one of these long, drawn-out periods of consolidation, very similar to the long, drawn-out period of consolidation we saw down here, where ranges will get tighter and tighter and tighter. And to be quite honest with you, I'm not going to lie. In the realm of chart patterns, this is probably one of the cleanest, most drawn-out daily examples I've seen of pretty clean descending triangle formation where it is just behaving properly. And you don't see this very often. Most of the time I see descending triangles or upshots or cups and handles or Fibonacci retracements. And I'm like, yeah, that shit ain't going to work, bro. But this is one of those few times when I'm not going to lie. This thing is working out pretty good. Hey, you have to be a fool not to, right? I mean, it's just bounce, 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 bounce. Now, as we get close, because it's worked so well, as we get closer to the end of this consolidation period, individuals tend to begin to act erratically. Okay, and that's why we see all these freaking wicks. Although, it's not uncommon to see lots of wicks on Bitcoin. It is highly volatile and the most momentum-based asset that you could possibly trade. But you see a lot of wicks as the pattern moves further into consolidation. And for me, this has nothing to do with chart patterns. This is all about the average true range and volatility. The tighter and tighter and tighter it gets, it means that we are moving further into consolidation, further into distribution, further into accumulation. And what follows periods of low volatility? Expansion. High volatility, you have Wyckoff markup, you have Wyckoff markdown, right? Now, everything here looks like distribution. It looks like, and this makes me really sad. It makes me really sad to say this, right? Because this always brings back, thoughts, right? This always brings back thoughts because we do have to zoom out and look at Bitcoin's price, from a more macro perspective. Obviously, we're on the ByBit chart, so let's go to the Coinbase chart. Let's go to the Coinbase chart here for a second. And we do have to kind of take that macro perspective because here's the thing. We look at this chart and we're like, okay, massive all-time high, steep drawdown, and is this the local high, right? Look at those monthly wicks. And that's something that I pointed out. Look at those monthly wicks. I mean, we don't see that. The last time we saw monthly wicks like that was at the all-time high. And that makes me really sad to see. Now, does that really shake my long-term faith in holding Bitcoin as an asset? No, I've made the decision to buy and hold Bitcoin forever. It is what it is, for good or for ill. And that's also why I'm diversified. So, but it does suck, man, because if we do break out of this, a distribution pattern like this, I don't think is something. So most of the analysis that I see, most of the thoughts that I see are people saying, nah, man, look, we're going to break down out of this triangle. We're going to hit 8,800, 8,900, maybe 8,000, 7,900. And then we're just going to skyrocket. We're just going to slingshot right back up to 20, 40, 80, 90, 100,000. Is that possible? Yes, it absolutely is. But in the realm of probability and what the charts look like, this doesn't look ultimately really, really good. Doesn't ultimately look really good. We lost the bullish momentum. We were not able to close consecutively higher monthly candles. And I talked about how that is a shift in trend. It did happen once over here in the 2017 bull run. We were closing consecutively higher and higher monthly candles for almost a year. And then we had a big pullback candle, and then it was right back to the races. Same thing over here. We had it just in a much smaller format. But as opposed to the bull run of 2017, when we look at the bull run of 2019, we've had two bearish monthly candles right now. Again, with these long wicks to the upside, which again, we really only saw with this ratio of closing price or open to closing price to wick length at local tops and local bottoms. Now, we didn't really see the wicks on the bottom. This was a very strong accumulation period, but you know, bothers me. It bothers me, worries me. Anyways, going back to the daily. And of course, the daily looks like shit. Spacey SVL says, Justin, my wise man, what support and resistant zone indicator would I recommend? Let's see here. So I really like ATR bands. That is the basis of volatility expander. So I think that's probably your best bet. That's what I'm going to recommend. I've seen some other decent ones out there that are based on price action. I can't think of really any off the top of my head. I really don't use indicators like that. Was just going to see if I was going to see if ones that I had liked in the past are going to be here kind of on the top. Can't really go wrong with CM Guppy. Shout out to my man Chris Moody. I'm not seeing any of the ones that I used to use or that I've checked out. Bill Williams Alligator is the shit, so check that out. Yeah, I'm not really seeing anything here that looks attractive. Most of this stuff looks like nonsense to me. But, you know, it all depends on what you're into. I'm not really into price levels. I don't find that they work very well. Yeah, I'm not really seeing anything here very good, man. Now, I'm sure, listen, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of indicators on here, so it's all going to come down to what you're going to do with. But if you want a recommendation, ATR bands. Andrew says, I used your setup on CME CBOT. That thing works like grease lightning. Check it out when you get done here and run it through a quick back test. Let me know what time frame you used and exactly what indicators you used. Looks like a Grim Reaper sickle pattern at the end there. But the daily has not broken the Bollinger's medium line yet. I don't really use the Bollinger Bands. I don't really like them a lot. I think ATR bands are far superior, but that's fine. That obviously is not a part of my analysis. So I would say if it's a part of your analysis, then that would mean that you're on the sidelines right now. That means you're probably either looking to buy or you're either looking to just sit on the sidelines until you get a clear signal if you are utilizing the Bollinger Bands. Okay, we've got other stuff to talk about. Let's bring out the infamous levels, and let's talk about levels. So below the 4-hour bullish breaker from 10.412 here on the Coinbase chart to 10.427. Those levels are a little bit different on the ByBit chart, and we'll go over those here in a little bit. Let's actually go down to the 4-hour chart so I can kind of pinpoint this 4-hour OB coming in at 98.39 to 98.11. Is that congruent here with our volatility expander on the 4-hour time frame? No, not whatsoever. Is it going to be congruent with anything else on the 4-hour time frame? No, not whatsoever. We are on the 4-hour 200 simple period moving average. No, 200 exponential moving average. Sorry, my bad. 100 period. Do I think that means anything? No, not really. Okay. And we do see a nice little setup right here. We see the fake break. So if you're looking for, in the realm of price action, if you're looking for a setup, right, it would be derived like this, right? You are seeing obviously a breaker. This is a bearish breaker or a bearish order block. We swept that, price rejected back down into the triangle. And then price retested the resistance area of the triangle and rejected. That is your initiation to enter into a short. You're adding on every retest of the short until you see the retest, until you see that zone reclaimed. Price action 101. Commenting on the setup that was sent to me this morning of entering into the short, basically right around the $200 area with the stop loss set at the top of the 4-hour high, or excuse me, the top of the 4-hour open. I think it was the top of the 4-hour open. Might have been the top of the 4-hour high. Either way, I don't really like that setup. We'll see if it plays out for him. Maybe it's easy for me to be like, well, I already had a great setup from like 389, but you know, it's whatever. It's whatever. I get it. I just don't like that idea of like panicking to enter into the short because you see a big candle to the downside. Although I do think that this support is fraudulent. I don't think there's any support here. I think this is a yawning abyss, and I think we could draw a magnet right down around here. Do I see an inverse head and shoulders? I don't. I think that is hopium, man. I see distribution. Okay, so let's talk about the justification of that 4-hour OB. So we've got this order block that was formed on a descent into support. Price obviously wicked down here really, really close to what ended up being our support level. That support level is actually a 4-hour OB. Actually, it's not an OB. It's a bullish breaker that generated it back over here in June of 2019. I don't know why I said 2019. Obviously, it just formed just a while ago. But anyways, moving on. So we broke that level. Did not really feel the need to come back and test that level whatsoever. It moved on. It's done. We started forming the contraction period of this distribution method back over here in July. After this double top, and that that breaker pretty much ran untested until I would say the chart really pretty much started to look bearish from a macro perspective. Let's see here. But anyways, here is that same kind of thing that I was talking about, right? And it's BPC, like so break, pullback, continuation, or double test, or whatever you guys want to call it. But you see that same scenario play out here. And more importantly, I think you'll see the same. I think you're likely. I don't know. I don't even want to put probabilities on it because this isn't my setup, right? This isn't my setup. I'm just pointing this area out of this OB at 98.11 to 98.39. And that area is you have buy side liquidity right here below these lows, i.e. you have liquidity to take price to the upside, and you're going to trigger their stops if you violate this area, right? So that white line indicates the order block. Right directly below here, you have buy side liquidity. What happens? You do break that area on this candle. You hit your support level right here, which conveniently enough was the bullish breaker that was generated back over in June and got bought up by buyers once, got bought up by buyers twice, got bought up by buyers 3 times. Then you broke that level to the upside, making it a bullish breaker, right? So you've got a support level OB, gets swept for liquidity, broken back above, becomes a bullish breaker. So basically you'd be buying the retest of that area. Now, do I really have a lot of confidence and faith in that level? Not supremely. I think that it might generate a decent scalp trade. I don't have any targets for that. But I see I get the setup. I get the price action setup. You'd have to have a stop loss down below. I mean, you'd have to have a stop loss down below support though, for that to even work. Because if price goes here and then it comes down to here and you have your stop loss here from buying here, but then let's say price does give a nice little bounce right back up here. Like I said, it's pretty hard to disavow how well this pattern has been playing out over the past few months. Do I want to trade it? No, it's not my strategy. It's not my edge. I don't trade chart patterns, but it's just convenient to point out and look at what other buyers and sellers might be doing in the market. 1240. Okay. So we talked about a lot, and we've got more to talk about as well as far as Bitcoin's price goes. But again, overall daily analysis is we are about to shift into full bearish mode on the daily. I think that the 4-hour looks very fraught with peril. I don't think that we're oversold. I think that this is most likely a directional movement. It does look pretty dire. It does look like we're on the verge of a breakdown. Now, whether or not that breakdown goes below 9,800 or whether that 9,800 4-hour OB does represent a good buy-in back price, I think you'll be able to tell based on the 4-hour close. I don't think that anybody that is, I think if you're setting up limit buys in that OB, don't sit through this bullshit. It's fraudulent. It doesn't matter if price then comes back up and breaks it. Buy it on the breakup. If 4-hour closes below, if you get a candle that looks like this, get out of your position. Get out of your long position at a small loss. Just get out. And I don't really think you should be going naked long. I think if anything, you should stay short and pick up a long on the side. Okay? Win buffet with Buffett. Don't know, man. I'll ask Justin Sun. Tweet at him right now. Okay, I want to go over and look at a couple things here. I did take a short on EOS last night. That's playing out very well. Everybody was very, very bullish on EOS last night. And I just looked at the chart. And there's more to it than this, but I'll make it very simple. I looked at the chart. I think that USD pairs are bearish. I don't think that this is the beginning of a trend. And I shorted it. And I shorted it full risk. So, yay. Yay for me. Let's see here. And we're about to hit TP1. So I will keep you guys updated on that as well. I want to look at a couple things on BTC fundamentals here. So this has recently been added to the NASDAQ. This is DE. You can find this on TradingView with the DEFIX ticker or DEFX. This is the decentralized finance index. And this is tracking. What's up, Yagami? What's going on, my man? Do I want to look at ZERP? I was looking at ZERP was the first thing I looked at today, my friend. Sure, we'll take a look at ZERP. Anyway, so this is a new, I feel like I got something on my lip. Anyways, you guys let me know if I'm looking silly. More silly than usual. Watching you. This has been recently added to the NASDAQ. And this is a index of, I think it's Augur and some other stuff. I don't think it's this Exante tracker. Let's see what exactly it's tracking. I know it's long story short, it's tracking decentralized finance projects like MakerDAO, AmoVO, 0x, Augur, and a handful of other well-known projects like MakerDAO. So this is going to give people an opportunity to get long exposure to altcoins, basically. I don't think that Bitcoin's not included in this. Bitcoin is not included in this. This is all for what is considered decentralized finance. Now, Exante has a Bitcoin fund. In fact, it was one of the first Bitcoin funds back in 2012. That fund has actually realized 70,000% profits. Yes, 70,000 with 3 zeros. And did pretty well. But anyway, so this is just interesting. I wanted to point this out. I'm interested to kind of see how this emerges as a leading or lagging or nonsense indicator for altcoins and DeFi projects. Again, like Augur, 0x, which is what I would be interested in trading. Those have some decent liquidity depending on the day, depending on the market cycle. Public service announcement, guys. When it comes to altcoins, I know they look really attractive right now, and I do think what is going on with Streamlabs, man? They're just like going nuts. Check out the alt indexes: alt perp, mid perp, and shit perp. Hey man, you better get long on that shit perp index, bro. So I think that so Binance is going to kick off US customers here in a few days, guys. It's a public service announcement. So, by the way, if you haven't gotten your funds off of Binance, now is the time to do so. Or you need to go ahead and just make that covenant with yourself. You're always logging in with a VPN, right? If you've got an unregistered account or unverified account, excuse me. Now, I'm not going to give you guys advice or counsel either way. I'm just going to say whatever you guys decide, I am going to give you advice and counsel either way. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm not going to tell you to use Binance with a VPN. I'm not going to tell you to not use Binance with a VPN. What I am going to tell you what to do is I'm going to tell you to basically make a commitment to whichever option you're going to go on, right? Because if you are, here's just my thing. You might want to rethink using Binance with a VPN, your current unregistered account, if for some reason your email is not just for Binance trading. If you have to reset any 2FA, if you have any issues that you might think might crop up, because I guarantee you can bet your bottom dollar, because I already know Binance is on the hunt for US customers. And if your VPN slips, or if you have any withdrawal error, they're going to demand that you verify your account with your identity. I've already seen them do it to a few people. I'm not trying to freak you guys out. You're not going to get in trouble, right? I've told people all the time, like it's not illegal to use ByBit or BitMEX or Binance with a VPN or any of these platforms that don't offer services to Americans. That's bad for them. So that's why they don't allow you, because they don't want to get, Justin, check out the MRG watches by G-Shock. Just discovered them, really cool. Yeah, I need to get, I think it's time to get the techie, what do you call it? Leather band. There's issues there. Ace of Spades says, thanks, Justin, for all your great content and honest advice. I got burned in 2018 as a newbie listening to the crypto bandwagon gurus, but you really helped me learn a lot. Thank you, man. Highly appreciate that. I shorted the shit perps, bro. Seemed like a no-brainer. Yep. Is Bitcoin going to crash hard as F on backed launch 923? It's kind of like what we're gearing up for, right? 9/23 is a really interesting day for me. I don't want to get into too much detail, but I got some personal stuff going on that day, so it'll be interesting. Or nothing could happen whatsoever. So again, that's one of those things. But anyways, this is the DFX index. We're going to be tracking this and seeing if we can see any correlation between our shit perps. All right, now, no, not dominance. I wanted to go over and look at GBTC. I wanted to look at GBTC and talk about a few things here. So GBTC looking to be exactly, I mean, obviously there's no big surprise here, but GBTC putting in that same pattern, but looking much, much, much weaker and honestly responding to levels of support and resistance cleaner, right? And when I say support and resistance, I mean OBs, the way that I trade support and resistance, or would trade support and resistance if it was my active form of trading. I mean, we can see that super, super clean here. OB formed here on the daily, broke, acted as a breaker, acted as, and then resistance, and then resistance held. And if we go back over here and we actually look at the level that was formed in July 2018, the OB that was formed in July 2018, before the descent down into madness, if you will, we can see that that is the current level of support. So this looks really, really nasty to me. This looks really, really nasty. Nothing but, and again, I've kind of said this, even though I got a little bullish on Friday. I've said this over and over and over again. Lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, lower highs. I feel like chart guys. Well, the bulls want higher highs and the bears want lower lows. Do I think it's possible for Bitcoin to go below the cost to mine? Yeah. Absolutely. Now, I think that you would see drastic measures be taken before then. Have I used open interest in my trading strategy? I have. I don't really like it. I've talked about it actually on the stream quite a bit before. It's just one of those things that's very, very hard to develop a rule base for, right? So, and I think a lot of people don't understand the way that open interest works. They're like, oh, open interest is rising, and that means I should be bearish because price is going down. Or open interest is falling. People often get it confused, and it's not really, really clear, whether open interest actually does what people who teach open interest say it does, right? i.e. open interest is rising. That means things are, because the answer that's left out with that is, okay, well, with how much momentum, or where are your take profit targets? Or do you actually, and like what line does open interest have to cross to actually signify, like, what does it mean for open interest to be rising, right? Just going up above a certain threshold, below a certain threshold? Does it have to break a level of resistance? Is it related to price in some way? Does price have to be breaking a level of resistance? I'm sure there are some people out there who are going to be like, Justin, duh. Okay, the answers for that are super simple, man. It's X, Y, and the Z and the third. But 9 out of 10 people I'm going to talk to don't have answers to those questions. If you have answers to those questions and you're like, well, yeah, man, it's quite obvious. When open interest is above this level right here that is objective and plotted on my chart, and price with this indicator is doing this, then I go long. Great. Sounds awesome, man. But if you don't have answers to those questions, I would test it a lot. And I think there's also an issue with compiling open interest data. The price to mine Bitcoin adjusts according to Bitcoin's price. Well, I'm sure that it does adjust because Bitcoin can get more expensive or cheaper to mine, but the cost to mine Bitcoin is going to be related to things that have nothing to do with Bitcoin's price, i.e. electricity costs or availability. But again, I think you would see a concentrated effort. To keep Bitcoin's price above the cost of mining. One might argue that. But then again, I mean, we have reports from a lot of miners in China during 2018 that were short selling the hell out of out of Bitcoin. They were very blatant about this, about the fact that, and I'm not speaking on behalf of all Chinese miners, but there was a lot of good reports, a lot of good information that came out from miners that were immediately taking all their mined Bitcoin, depositing onto BitMEX and shorting because they were not making enough money by just mining Bitcoin, but they weren't going to turn their miners off, and they were finding profits from adding to their short position on BitMEX. How many contracts would a full risk position be on EOS? It would be the distance to your stop divided by your maximum loss allowable. So it's going to be dynamic for everybody. But essentially, the difference between a full risk and a half risk and a quarter risk would be whatever position size your position size calculator spits out that tells you that if your stop loss gets hit, you're going to lose X amount of your account, X amount of your equity, where X is your maximum allowable risk percentage. Sounds pretty centralized. Yeah, man. I mean, something where the cost is dynamic according to the availability of the market and electricity, which is also, ruled by the invisible hand of the market, is far more centralized than a centralized company that can just say, here you go, market. 7.5 billion Ripple. Way more centralized, man. Not complicated dynamics and game theoreticals, keeping the system safe and economically efficient. All right, over to BTC1. Anyways, I just wanted to point out with GBTC, the situation looks pretty dire. BTC1, let's go look at the continuous contract in front. Over here, the CME futures. I think that we've got basically one thing here. I've gone ahead and mapped out the gaps. And we did fill this one little gap that everybody was talking about up here at 12,000 and coming down to where we're at right now. Currently looks like we've filled the gap, this gap that everybody said was going to fill. Now, a lot of people are saying this is going to be quite bullish, but again, I want to point something out. Here was the gap that we had to fill when we were over here. Zoom in a little bit, right? Here's the gap that everybody was saying we needed to fill, and then we're going to fill this gap and just go right back on up to the moon, man. Well, we filled the gap and we just kept on going down. In fact, we back tested the gap as resistance and then just sidled around for a little bit, made another gap, and I think we're going to fill this gap. I think we're going to move down, back test it as resistance, and keep on moving down. So what's the next gap that is yet to be filled? Well, that's 89.85 to 85.15. That's kind of the gap if we're talking about gaps that I have my eye on. I think that is the only level here. That's the only amount of relevant data that I can get from here, because it seems that gaps on the BTC, that on the CME futures are the only kind of portable relevant data over to Bitcoin's actual price. Hashtag triggered, yes. It's 12:56. So we're getting closer and closer to the break. And when we come back, we've got a lot to talk about. Got a whole lot more to talk about. So somebody had said something about EVX. So I'm going to slide down here and put EVX down on the request list. Do I trade cannabis stocks? No, I do not trade cannabis stocks actively. If I wasn't running, I'll drink every time he says gap. I think that I would probably be trading stocks right now. I'd probably also be trading commodities if I was not working on the course, if I was not developing strategies with my developer, if I wasn't doing all the mentoring that I'm doing, and I wouldn't say that I'm, I guess I could argue with myself that I'm missing out. But at the same time, my goals in life are different from other people's goals in life. I mean, I'm quite comfortable. I'm doing quite well with my trading. I'm doing quite well with everything that I'm doing. So I don't really need to trade other markets. If I had nothing to do but sit here and trade like I used to for years, then I'd probably be trading everything and anything and everything. But right now, I'm really, really comfortable with cryptocurrency and with Forex, which I'm getting back into. I mean, I just know that. So the difference is the way that I trade. I take sometimes up to a year to build a strategy out and understand all the edge cases and know that it works. I back test it. I forward test it. I test all different potentialities. And then I push that into the market and I trade it blindly. I just do what the system tells me to do because I've put in the work beforehand. And then it just sits there and makes me money. Most people aren't willing to put that work in, but that's really the best way to trade. I don't have to watch the charts. I don't have to, all the stuff I talk about on the daily show, price action and support and resistance and gaps and trend lines and all that stuff. That has nothing to do with how I trade. I just pointed out, talk about what other people are talking about. And again, that was also my foundation of education as well when I started out. So I want to make sure that people, it's not that there's not an edge in trading that. It's just that most people don't have the necessary discipline or patience or lifestyle setup to trade that way. Just ends up burning people out. And analysis paralysis is a real thing. The way that I trade takes a little bit of time, but it's very rewarding when you can just sit there and have something that you built and that it works for you. Let's go over to, actually it's 12:59. So let's go to break. Take us to Forex. All right, we'll do Forex when I come back. Substratum news. It's officially a dead coin now. Substratum's been dead for a whole long time, bro. So let's slide over to the other scene and we'll talk about the premium trading group. We'll go to break. We'll come back. We'll go to Forex. All right. All right, guys. I was going to get you. Told you I was going to get you. Today's episode is brought to you by the Kraken Cryptocurrency Premium Trading Group. If you guys would like to learn how to build a system, if you guys would like access to the Pathways to Profit strategy building course, if you guys would like access to our analysts and our mentors, we do provide exclusive daily setups and signals from 3 analysts as well as our exclusive Discord community, which is designed to help you out in your progress as a trader. We focus on risk management, technical strategy, building a system. We teach pine coding. We teach manual testing. We teach all the tools and skills necessary to build a system from the ground up, regardless of how long it takes you, whether it takes you a month, whether it takes you 6 months. We're here to help you out as best as we can. We also have dozens and dozens of hours of pre-recorded footage to walk you through these steps. We also have our premium webinar series where we do talk about subjects like support and resistance, leverage trading. We talk about platform-specific trading. We talk about indicators and strategies. You also get access to our suite of indicators, including Minx, time transformation. Coming soon, volatility expander, Quadrigo ATR, Quadrigo QPS, the baseline indicator. And I know I'm forgetting a few others as well, but they're really cool and awesome. I put a lot of time into developing these things. With our developers, you'll also get access to anything that we develop. Obviously, people are pretty aware that we're developing a lot of lower time frame strategies right now. Everything from the 4-hour chart down to the 15-minute chart for scalping strategies, all PTP strategies. But we're using some pretty advanced models to build these systems out, things that we've been working on for over a year, and I'm really, really excited about them. So if you guys would like to learn how we trade, if you guys would like to use our tools and follow our rules, you can head over to premium.krakencryptocurrency.com. Link in the description down below. We'll be back in just a second, guys. Don't go anywhere. Make sure that during the break, you hit the thumbs up button if you haven't already. Click the subscribe button, the notification bell, because the YouTube algorithm doesn't like crypto YouTubers. But we're here. We're live. We're proud. They're running a chainsaw outside, which is going to be fantastic for the rest of the show. And I'll tell you guys about how a tree fell on my car when we come back. Don't go anywhere. And we're back. All right, so let's talk about a few things. First off, let me drink the rest of this coffee. Okay, we're all hydrated and ready to go. Justin, that's the sort of thing you should do during the break. Quiet. Moving on. All right. Hey. I wanted to thank Steve H. and Project Earning for subscribing over there on YouTube. Highly appreciated. Thank you guys so much. Okay. Here's the thing. Tree Connect. Yeah. So let's talk about the tree before we get into the news. So I'm sitting here last night and I am working on some Pine. It's about 1,500 lines of code. It's something that I've been working on for quite a while, just fleshing out all the little details as I have continued to build what I call this B strategy tester out for months and making quite good progress on it. Really, really happy with it. Basically, all the problems that people have in TradingView and in Pine are not easy to solve, but then you figure out how to solve them with lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of testing. Let's actually go over to the Bitcoin chart as we talk about that. So I'm sitting here last night. And I'm just working and I get a call. There is 50-mile-per-hour winds and a big storm coming our way. And I'm like, ooh, great. Tornado warning. I'm like, awesome, great. So my daughter's asleep at this point in time. And I'm just sitting here and I hear it come in. I hear the wind raging against the windows and I hear the rain pouring down, pouring sheets. And I'm like, oh, I love this. So I go out back because I just like watching storms. I love the rain. And lightning strikes right in front of me. Just literally right in front of me. And there is this tree on my property line that I share with my neighbor. Lightning comes down, strikes the tree, and just this massive, huge branch just goes right down and just straight down. And I was sitting there thinking, wow, that was awesome. And then I hear my car alarm start going off. And I'm like, oh, no. So I took some pictures with my phone. I didn't put them on the computer. But I take a few steps into the storm, and I turn and I just see I have this is not my main car, but it's my van. It's the van that I drive my kids around in, and I just see this. It's just right on top. It's just not right on top. It like fell onto the hood And it's just absolute, like this huge, like just branches just covering the van. Like you couldn't see it. You could just basically see a glimmer. And I was like, well, that was awesome for about half a second. So I come inside and it stops raining about 10 minutes later. And I go around the front now that I can go outside and I'm not going to get drenched. And I could just, it's just like a hole, like where my van is sticking into. So I was, you know, in good moods. I was in good spirits. And so I open up the back door of my van and thank God I could see that the front windshield had not been smashed in. So I was like, all right, sweet. Okay, I look around. There's no shattered glass. I'm like, okay, man, like a rock indeed, man. Go, baby. So I crawl through the back of the van. I get into the driver's side seat, turn the car on. I just back it up. Now, I'm not going to lie. The tree did some damage. It didn't leave any dents, didn't smash any windows, didn't do anything, like a rock indeed. But it did take off the side view mirrors and it did knock a headlight like down, like a branch must have fallen right on the headlight because the headlight's like depressed in right now. So I fixed the side view mirrors this morning. I'll fix the headlight later. I'm not too worried about it. But I went and parked the van on the street. And about 10 minutes later, in comes, you know, this is what I like about where I live. You know, I talked to like people and I don't mean this as disparaging to anybody who lives anywhere else, but I talk about why I live where I live, right? I talk about why I feel the way that I feel about politics and economics. And I really do think that the best kind of support, the best kind of governance, the best kind of everything is local based. I think that you should be supporting your local communities. I think that people should be focusing on their relationships with their families. I think that people should be focused on their relationship with their kids and their loved ones, and then trying to benefit their local communities and then branching out. And the problem that I've seen, the reason why I dislike government so much, the reason why I dislike large government so much, the reason why I dislike socialism so much is that I've noticed, I mean, this is almost an undeniable fact. I've noticed it in history and I've noticed it in my personal life, that when people start to look for government to solve their problems, it seems that people lose all ability to rely on their own ability, their own community's ability to solve problems, right? You do not need some kind of government funding. You don't need some government agency. You don't need ABC, XYZ to protect you and do all this and that, because those government agencies are slow to respond. They are often fraught with corruption. They're not designed to actually fix things, right? You know, regulation that stops me from just helping somebody out is absolutely retarded. So anyways, but within about 10 minutes, bobcats coming in and dudes with chainsaws coming in from the local first responders unit. I mean, there was like 15, 20 guys out there, and you know, God bless them, man, because they were hacking away on that thing with chainsaws for like 10 minutes until the storm came back in, started pouring sheets of rain on them again, and they're like, we'll come back in the morning, so I can hear them out there pulling the branch away. That's why I live in the Midwest, because people care around here. So good stuff, man. Oh no, here comes the politics. It's a Bitcoin channel, man. We can't get away from it. It's a total basket, man. You come here for the TA. You come here to agree or disagree with me about why socialism sucks. Okay. Yo, why is Litecoin holding support? Because Litecoin is strong right now. Because Litecoin is showing signs of strength where others are not. Now, please keep politics off the blockchain. Don't do it, chat. You're going to get me riled up. We're going to go off on a long tangent about Venezuela. All right, let's go to the news, guys. Okay, so. Woo! The backed warehouse is now active for Bitcoin futures. Now, this is actually, one second. Now, this is actually coming to us from the past. This is actually coming to us from yesterday's headline. But yes, the backed warehouse is now live for deposits. Now, what's interesting is, I just wanted to point this out, Bitcoin deposited at the backed warehouse is protected by a $125 million insurance policy. I don't know why that was repeated. And Bakkt is scheduled to launch its physically delivered Bitcoin futures on September 23rd. So mark your calendars, be ready with your deposits. Let's go. Crypto Daddy says, I'm losing. Don't mind me. Not minding you at all, brother. It's all good, man. The tree fall in your car too? I've been there. It's rough, dude. So I do want to talk about Bakkt just a little bit. I do think that, I'm just making like wide projections into the future. I'm not, absolutely certain about this whatsoever. You guys could see a little bit of Ben Shapiro there in the background. So they keep a ledger inside a warehouse. So just as with BitPay, they've built up their own servers and systems for cold storage. They've built their own thing. Just like you can make your own wallet, just like you can make your own implementation of Bitcoin, just like you can make your own cold storage solution. That's why we had so many of these, cold storage solutions back in the 2013s, 2014s, and now they've basically evolved to, your keep key, your ledger, your Trezor. But back in the day, we had chips inside of gold minted coins. We had these USB sticks where you had to break them to get the private keys so you could see if they'd been tampered with. You had all these kind of you had all these, what's the word I'm looking for? You had all these words. You had all these, independent solutions to Bitcoin security, essentially, all right? And all the large companies that do lots of custodial solutions like BitPay, for example, they build their own proprietary systems. Now, so Bakkt warehouse is live. Trading is going to be live on September 23rd, supposedly. Now, if Bakkt, as physically delivered Bitcoin futures, if Bakkt does end up getting some decent liquidity, I would most likely be looking for Bakkt to be the price discovery vehicle. And interestingly enough, I think it's going to be interesting to see if we see some of these exchanges that do futures contracts switch over their index to incorporate Bakkt or not. I think that would be really, really interesting. And also it would be interesting to see, kind of how some of these current, futures platforms, physically delivered futures platforms that we have, like ByBit and BitMEX, how they move forward and kind of progress off of this. So keep you guys updated about Bakkt. Obviously, the memes and the things, I saw a great Twitter thread that's like solutions. Yeah, there you go. I saw a great Twitter meme. It's like, Bakkt showing up to save Bitcoin, All right. Let's talk about this girl. This lady, his name is Sigal Mandelker. Mandelker, yes, that's right. Whoa. So she's a U.S. Treasury official, and she spoke to reporters at Reuters after meeting with representatives from the Swiss government. So obviously we know that Libra is based in Switzerland. So she met with representatives from the Swiss government, the Bank for International Settlements, and other international bodies to discuss cryptocurrencies, including the upcoming Swiss-based project Libra. I don't know why it's not really a crypto. Anyways, moving on. It's not a true cryptocurrency. So she is a senior official under the Secretary of the Treasury for Terrorism and Financial Intelligence. She told reporters not only Libra, but other cryptocurrencies will have to comply with stringent U.S. regulations if they want any kind of sign off on this. I don't really know exactly where she's coming from because, obviously we know that cryptocurrencies are in a very lukewarm area of legality in the United States and worldwide. There are some countries like Japan that have said that Bitcoin is legal tender. Other countries have followed suit. But then we have the majority and preponderance of countries that are like, we don't really have like hardcore regulation or legislation on it except for exchanges or money transmitting licenses and things of that nature. But anyways, if we're kind of getting any feeling for where this is going to go, it seems that their main death knell here, their main method of attack is going to be on avoiding the funding of terrorism and blah, 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 which basically means we don't want you to be able to do with your money what you want. So she says, quote, whether it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Libra, our message is the same to all of these companies. Bitcoin is not a company. Anti-money laundering and combating the financing of terrorism has to be built into your design from the get-go. Now, she did acknowledge that the digital currency industry has made tremendous strides in developing the underlying technology, but she asserted that they have completely neglected the fundamental need to prevent bad actors and terrorists from using their networks. She will go on to meet Switzerland's financial market supervisor, FINMA, on Tuesday, where they will be discussing not only anti-money laundering protocols, but also the priority of enforcement action against companies breaking these rules. Now, here's the thing. I don't really know where they plan to go from this. How do they plan to penalize companies that are not doing? So here's the thing. They can target exchanges. They can target providers of liquidity. They can target all these things, but they can't. I don't really see the way that the Bitcoin network is structured right now. They're going to run into a brick wall when it comes into preventing the funding of terrorism. And again, I'll make the same old hackneyed, tired argument that is still true. That again, we know that the US dollar as the world reserve currency is used to fund more terrorism than Bitcoin could ever dream to do. And actually sending funds to terrorism is far more traceable and far more not able to regulate, but just able to track than using something like the United States dollar, where you can just ship pallets of cash because every transaction on the Bitcoin network is on the public blockchain. But I digress. Like I said, she will go on to meet Switzerland's today. She's supposed to meet Switzerland's financial market supervisor, FINMA, where they will be discussing not only anti-money laundering protocols, but also the priority of enforcement action against companies breaking these rules. So, again, we're going to see enforcement against exchanges. We've already seen that. The necessity to do KYC AML. Oh, well, so what? In August, FINMA did grant. Now, I want to talk about like why Switzerland, why a lot of people don't know, like why is Libra incorporating in Switzerland? Why is Switzerland kind of hot on the news? In August, FINMA, which is the regulatory agency there in Switzerland, they did grant 2 banking and securities licenses to blockchain service companies. So that's obviously a huge milestone for what's already known as Crypto Valley in Europe, in this Switzerland area. And she says, quote, Switzerland, like a number of other countries, has promoted itself as a hub for fintech and for innovation. And so, of course, any country that promotes itself in that way, in my view, it's incumbent upon that country to take these particular concerns at the highest level into the utmost regard. Good luck. You know, Switzerland has been able to remain neutral through the ups and downs of global international war and finance and economic situation. So I don't know if that is a veiled threat saying that they are going to basically hold Switzerland accountable for what these blockchain companies are going to do. But at the end of the day, Switzerland is an autonomous country that can make its own dang laws. Now, over to what I think is interesting. Let's call it interesting. Tether has begun minting CHNT stablecoin, which is pegged to the Japanese yuan. Now, 3 weeks ago, we talked about this. Tether announced that its new Chinese renminbi-backed stablecoin, dubbed the CNHT, and earlier today, the Tether Treasury, So 3 weeks ago, Tether announced its new Chinese renminbi-backed stablecoin, dubbed the CNHT. And earlier today, the Tether Treasury has minted 20 million CNHT into existence, as notified by Whale Alerts. Thank you so much, Whale Alerts. You do a public service announcement. Shout out to Whale Alerts. So some say it is a bold move. So let's just like trace it back. So let's keep in mind, let's just walk through what Bitfinex has done, because I've been very, very consistent in my approach to Bitfinex and what I've said. You guys can go check out my video, Tether FUD and Bitfinex explained by a professional trader, where I broke it all down when we got the public release of the report by the New York Department of Financial Services and the New York Attorney General's office. Bitfinex lost $850 million. Crypto Capital Corporation, which is the same Third-party payment processor that was associated with Quadriga CX. Oh, ye of the friends of mine of Canadians that have lost their money up there in ye old Canada. I feel sorry for you guys. I'm sorry. That was a terrible thing. But anyways, Quadriga CX was a shady exchange, and Bitfinex is a shady exchange, regardless of what they've done for the community. I get it. I get it. You know, the argument is that they are the one true, you know, people out there fighting against regulation and this and that. And although that might have been true at one point in time, one cannot, and the assertion that I made in my video, which I still assert, is that Bitfinex kind of started out being, I don't want to say altruistic. They were in it for profit. They were generating profits with their business model. But at the end of the day, they got themselves into a situation where they were trying to provide a service where they were offering fiat to crypto on-ramping without while still staying outside of the boundaries of most regulation. And they had difficulties with this. They had difficulties with this with Wells Fargo. They got their banking cut off by Wells Fargo. And so they had to start turning to more and more less honest banking solutions. Now, I don't know if I necessarily believe the very large conspiracy theory that Crypto Capital Corporation and Tether Treasury are actually in cahoots, that this money was actually stolen from Bitfinex. Now, while that is absolutely possible that there were inside actors at Bitfinex or Digifinex that orchestrated this theft of $850 million worth of cash, this was cash that was held in deposit with them because they were unable to process transfers. Now, we do know that this money, well, we believe that this money has been seized by government agencies in Portugal, Spain, and the United States of America. I doubt that that money will ever be returned. If you guys want to know why? Well, if you were a fiat government and you got your hands on $850 million in cash, would you return it to people that you think are criminals in the first place? Probably not. So I think that money is gone. In response, Bitfinex borrowed a ton of money to shore up the bleeding from the Tether Treasury. That is why the Tether reserves are no longer backed dollar to dollar. I absolutely do believe that. Until I see some kind of auditing or accounting, I will continue to believe that. And then to cover up for that, they held the Leo IEO, which was an absolute scam and probably the worst thing that Bitfinex could have done. And really them offering that $1 billion IEO on the tail of them, publicly losing this $850 million and taking the money from the Tether Treasury and, hushing it up and not telling investors about it or not telling the market about it because they didn't want to cause a panic, which I get. That was really the final nail in the coffin for me for Bitfinex. But now, I think that in order to stem the tide more, now they're going to be minting these CNHTs as they try to spread more into the Chinese market because there is still an active trading and investing community in China, even though that is illegal in China. Not holding cryptocurrency, but trading and exchanges are outlawed in China, and participating in external exchanges, exchanges that are not external to China, which keep in mind, exchanges in China are illegal in the first place. So participating in external exchanges or out-of-country exchanges are also illegal for Chinese citizens. Tia Phil, thanks so much for the sub over there on YouTube, my good friend. Now, so some would say that it's a pretty bold move for Tether and their partner Bitfinex to be expanding into another stablecoin business while they are still currently embroiled in a legal suit with the New York Attorney General's office on the heels of the fact that their motion to dismiss has not been approved, and on the heels that even though I think that the New York Ag's case is tenuous at best, that the judge decided that they have the ability to expand their investigation and that Bitfinex has to comply with all investigation requests made by the New York Attorney General's office. So some would say it's pretty bold for Bitfinex to expand into this market. And this comes days after co-founder William Quigley. I'm not going to lie. I've never met a Quigley that I like. But if your last name is Quigley, that's fine. I'm just telling you my personal experience in life. He says, quote, "It doesn't matter," end quote, "if the USDT stablecoin is backed by exactly the right number of dollars." Now, it would be easy for me to say, well, that's just silly. Of course it does matter. I understand what he's saying. The problem is, so of course, there is nothing wrong. This is how banks operate. This is how fractional reserve banking operates. The goal is, or the idea is that you have a reserve that you have received. You have money that you've brought in, which is backing up, but you don't want to just let that money sit there, especially with negative yielding interest rates in the current global economic climate. So you're going to utilize that money as the basis of loans. You're going to utilize that money to actually invest in methods of your own. And you can obviously understand how this can open up a wide door to corruption if, for example, you were to give somebody, let's say a couple $1,000,000 and say, hey, I want you to hold this in reserve for me. I want you to hold this safely for me. And I need it if I ever want it. And they take that money and are saying, yeah, sure, we'll hold on to this because we've got money from Paul, Peter, and Paul, Paul, Peter, and Bob over here. But we're going to take the $2 million that you gave us. Basically, we're going to take a lot of this money and we're going to invest it so we can get a return. And if you want to get your money back, that's fine. We'll just sell the investment and return it. It's kind of complicated. We'll probably just take from Lucy over here so you can get your money back. And then we'll take, we'll just shift these funds around here. And this is what professional investment banks and banks do. This is how they make money. They take money that is deposited with them. They use that money as the basis of loans. They use that money to invest in generally for banks, low risk appreciation assets or index funds or anything like that. Banks are in the business of making money with the money that is given to them. And this is how they provide interest to people who keep their money in deposit as savings, even though that interest is generally lame and not beating the rate of inflation, unless you have your money over in something like wealthfront.com, where I have quite a sizable cash account. Now, let's say that, so we can see that this really, really opens up the door to a lot of corruption. If the entity that you have deposited all these funds with basically have carte blanche to do what they want with the money and are not accountable to anybody. Now, it would be nice if they were accountable to the investors in the way that typically in the world of banking, in the world of funds, in the world of hedge funds, or anything, any kind of entity where you are giving money to and they are investing it on your behalf, or you are giving money to in the form of savings and they are letting you know up front that we are going to invest this money to earn a return, and we will be paying interest to you in return for you allowing us to invest your money, but you can get your money back when you want it, or maybe there's a lockup period, is that there is accountability. We know exactly where the money is. We know exactly what it is invested in. We can see the books of the company that is doing this. In the case of Tether, this is not true. We have absolutely no idea where the money is. And again, some are going to argue that this is so that they can avoid US regulation. The government can see where the money is, right? They own the banking system, right? There is no avoiding international regulation when the international bodies that control the regulation also can peer into the bank accounts of all commercial banks. So I think that argument is hackneyed and tired and not true. And the reality of the situation is that it's just not a good idea to have a company that is accountable to nobody and that also owns an exchange to be responsible for the investment decisions of a large amount of money. Again, the main problem here being they're not accountable to anybody and they release no reports on the holdings of their company. So for all we know, there could be $0. They could have lost it all. It could all be sitting in somebody's pocketbook right now. Now, do I say this to spread FUD? No, but I say this to just, in my opinion, well, it's what I think and what I believe, and it's my show. So, but again, I think a lot of people out there just either blindly trust Tether or Bitfinex. I know that there's this ever decreasing, I think as time goes by, pocket of the population in the cryptocurrency community who just support Tether and Bitfinex for whatever they want to do. And I think that these are probably people who have their personal finances tied up in either the Bitfinex exchange or the activities of Tether. And then, on the other hand, you have people that just blindly hate Tether because of news articles that they've read, or people that are sitting on the fence. And I think that the evidence is pretty clear. Again, to me, I think that holding that $1 billion Leo IEO immediately after it becoming publicly obvious that they had lost about that amount of money to Crypto Capital Corporation is pretty much the height of fraud. So, anyways, Tether says that the new CNHT is going to be pegged to offshore holdings of the Chinese renminbi. So it is not linked to any account inside China, and investors should rest confident and assured in the new product, if you actually do believe that they have the renminbi in the first place. But let me know what you guys think. So here is, I wanted to talk about this. The NASDAQ bullish on crypto and blockchain as stock giant adds the decentralized finance index. So this is just coming off the heels of what I was saying earlier about the DeFi index ticker that is now on the NASDAQ. And I don't have a lot of thoughts on this at this current point in time, but it's a chart that I'm going to be looking at to see if it acts as a leading indicator or a lagging indicator, one way or the other, for the altcoin market. Hell, send over a 747 full of cash in the middle of the night. You got it right, man. Let's see here. What else? All right, so let's talk about the VanEck Bitcoin Trust. This is VanEck SolidX, the ETF that's not an ETF. It's not an ETF one way, shape, or the other. It's just a trust, very similar to the GBTC trust, which has been available for quite a while. So I was pretty speculative about this once we actually got the information that it wasn't in any way, shape, or form an ETF, which would actually be something exciting and new. But this is not something exciting and new. This is just another trust, and I don't see why it would be more successful than the established market that's already out there. But whatever. We'll kind of have more information as things go on. But VanEck and SolidX, they have launched their Bitcoin trust. Unfortunately, the fundraising appears to be off to a pretty stagnant start. So after just 6 days, they have only raised about $41,400 or just 4 Bitcoin. Now, this failure may be due in part to the fact that this is just an institutional product and this is not available to retail. This is not available to retail investors. And the fact is that large funds that are looking for exposure to Bitcoin will likely choose different strategies. And these strategies are not going to be purchasing funds in a trust or investing funds in a trust. This is likely going to be developing their own in-house solutions, whether those are going to be investment or risk models, or whether these are going to be trading strategies. So on top of that, most likely not trading strategies because there's no very large fund that's going to be taking their money onto Bitfinex. On top of that, this VanEck fund has a really, really high, unusually high expense fee of 2.9% for a passively managed fund, which is unnatural. That's really, really high. Most retail investors in the crypto space are generally encouraged or engaged currently in managing their own portfolio, and existing custodial solutions are already growing. Again, we just talked about the backed warehouse. So the VanEck trust may have found itself out in the cold. I think they just brought the wrong product to market at the wrong time. I don't think there's a huge demand for this. Obviously, we'll see how it grows, but we've also seen, the liquidity with GBTC as well tend to dry up, as we can see too. And the last thing that I want to talk about here, before we switch over into anything you guys want to talk about, is Ethereum 2.0. And a lot of people are heralding this as fundamental bullish news for Ethereum. Boom shakalaka. There we go. So Ethereum 2.0 has launched their proof of stake testnet blockchain. It's live now. You guys can go play with it, test it out, tweak it, love it, pet it, scratch it. So it's live. Preston Van Loon, who's the co-founder of sharding development firm Prismatic Labs, he announced this development in a Medium post on May 7th, so this is a little bit older. But Ethereum 2.0 is an upcoming, for those of you who don't know, for those of you who have been sitting out in the cold, Ethereum 2.0 is an upcoming new Ethereum chain featuring improvements in security, scalability, and decentralization, according to them. ETH 2.0 is not going to be introduced to the current Ethereum network by means of a hard fork. Instead, users will be able to transfer value from the current proof of work chain to the proof of stake chain one way via a smart contract. So it's not going to be a hard fork. It's going to be an entirely new network. So in the post, Van Loon explains the advantages of sharding implementation. He says that, quote, having shards allows for horizontal scalability of the system as transactions can be processed in parallel compared to the current Ethereum proof of work chain. Ethereum core developers have already stated last week that code for the first stage transition to a proof of stake consensus algorithm could be completed by the end of June. It is now September. We do not have that yet. Oh, man. Now, a lot of people are pointing to this Ethereum 2.0 as essentially bullish, but I just want to give you guys a little bit of a reality check. People have been talking about proof of stake since literally 2014, and it has not happened yet, now 5 years later. So just take that with a grain of salt. I'm not going to take the opportunity to fire shots at Ethereum. I'm just not going to do it, man. Just not going to do it. I will say this, that I don't think that Ethereum is dead in the water with proof of stake, because I don't think that Ethereum necessarily needs to be proof of work to function as it currently is. I think that Ethereum as a proof of stake model might actually be better suited to what it wants to do, especially with sharding. The reason why is because it wants to be a global supercomputer, decentralized supercomputer, and not money. So Bitcoin wants to be money, and because of that, money needs to be, which has the highest network effect, and that's why I'm more fundamentally bullish on Bitcoin than any other solution, because Bitcoin has the largest available network effect to expound off of, which is becoming money. Bitcoin needs to be the most secure, therefore proof of work, because I do not believe that proof of stake is more secure than proof of work. You will never convince me that proof of stake does not have security vulnerabilities. But they are security vulnerabilities when we are dealing with less critical things like what Ethereum wants to do, as opposed to your actual savings and your currency, which is going to be Bitcoin. Will I stake Ethereum? It seems like I'd be silly not to. Yes, I think I would most likely be silly not to. So the answer to that is most likely going to be yes. I mean, we have Ethereum. I have Ethereum sitting there. Might as well stake it. Let's go to back over here. All right, guys. Let's see if Bitcoin has done anything. No, not yet. We climb up. Again, the setup that I had received from a lot of guys that were looking at this price action was they went ahead and shorted right around this area, about 10,200. They have their stop at the high or the open of this 4-hour candle, and they're looking at targeting the $9,900 area, the $9,800 area, and even as low as the $9,500 area. Now, as I also talked about, I think we've got that 4-hour OB to contend with, which is coming in from 98.39 to 98.19. This would be congruent with the breaker setup. Obviously, we have this level. This was buy-side liquidity that got swept. So we have these three actually, equidistant lows. We have this level, this range right here. That level is swept. We grab liquidity below on the support level of the ascending trend line of the triangle, and then price blasts up. The setup would be, in a price action perspective, would be to buy the retest of that zone and then to set your targets wherever. You're gonna have to set your targets wherever. This is not my setup. But that 4-hour OB is there. 4-hour OB is there. That is not really congruent with our daily ATR bands. Excuse me, it is congruent with our daily ATR bands. 97.99. So that ATR band is actually a little bit lower at 98, 97.95, 9800. So there is, I apologize. There is daily confluence with that from our dynamic levels of reversion of the mean strategy. So that setup in that sense would be the buy at 97.95, or again, that $9,800 OB, and the move back up to 10,291. And again, as I said, I would like to see, if I were going to rescale it further into my short, I would like to see price back up around 10.4, maybe even 10.3, 10.4, and I would feel a little bit better about adding at that level in time. Whether we're going to get that opportunity or not, we'll see. But that would be a tertiary setup in addition to what we're already talking about. Oh, shoot. So we're going to look at EVX. We're going to look at Litecoin. And what are my thoughts on DeFi? You know, I don't really have eloquent thoughts on DeFi. I'm not going to lie. Depends on what it wants to accomplish. I think that we're going to see decentralization be the basis of everything. You know, as a fundamental value investor, I can see what I believe the future will look like. And barring global apocalypse, barring zombies rising from the graves, or barring a large asteroid crashing into the surface of the earth, I think that the future of the world will continue to move more and more toward technological advancement. I think that decentralization is going to be the future. And thus, in that sense, decentralization will revolutionize everything that we currently see, just as we currently see Bitcoin revolutionizing our payment structure right now. Also, Neo the Bitcoin on Binance, pretty please. Sure, brother. Neo to the Bitcoin and EVX. So I'm going to be approaching these Bitcoins with the same public service announcement that I said earlier, which is I highly expect to see a lot of these coins. I highly expect a lot of these coins to be very pumpy, dangerously so. over the next week or so. GBU Wally, thank you so much for the $5. He says Neo BTC on Binance, pretty pleased this time, and this time with gusto. Gonna get that gusto. Yes, man, I'd be happy to look at Neo BTC for you. Thank you so much for the support, my good man. All right. Agency says decentralization is the means by which a false sense of self-autonomy is granted to some of the world's public, while clever men per Plato's Republic pull the levers of society in the background. I think that's a cynical view, but I definitely see where you're coming from. However, I would argue that that is still a superior system to where the levers are clearly controlled right out in the open, and the system is centralized in the first place. Decentralizing the system basically allows those who are the most clever to manipulate it, which is a whole lot better than just those having the most power controlling it. So, again, in that cynical sense, that is absolutely true. Well, I don't want to say that's absolutely true. That could be true, right? That could be true. But it all depends on how good the technology is, and it all depends on how well it is maintained. But I would still rather have a system in which... So here's the thing, man. That this idea, like the Matrix idea, like, oh man, people don't know, like you're living in the Matrix, man, like you're really a slave. That's still a better system than having the government's literal boot on your face. So it's like growing stages of human society advancing. Adam says, random question. How do I put in multiple take profits on ByBit? When I click on the position edit button, it only lets me put in one take profit. So you just need to put in limit orders. So don't set your take profit from the edit position or from the position setup. When you first set up the position, just leave it blank. You can set your stop loss if you want to from there. But then when you go to set your take profits, if you want to set multiple take profits, then just set limit orders in the opposite direction. So if you're going long, just set limit sell orders at the price that you want to for the quantity that you want to. More on that in a moment. So anyways, let's go to EVX. All right, so EVX on the daily baseline, or on the daily time frame, pumped up to the daily baseline, put in this long scam wick. Up to our upper volatility band right there, i.e. the qualifying line, i.e. the upper level on our volatility expander, which is our first ATR band right there. So we'll just bring the volatility expander back. Which again, so one particular strategy with this is going to be when price goes below and then comes back above, you buy it going back up, right? So that's the reversion. This is essentially exactly what it would look like if this setup plays out on that BTC with the 4-hour OB at 9,800, right? You have price go below, back above, you buy it on the way back up. And you aim for the reversion of the mean strategy back to the baseline. I'm not going to lie. I don't like this. You get some pump and dumps right here. So you've just got a ton of liquidity. You have a ton of trapped buyers right here. And this is exactly why price is struggling to make it up right here so far. I mean, this becomes very objective on the daily baseline. There is no daily setup here. Minx is below the 0 line. We have the Watertar explosion has flipped bullish, but it has not given us a buy signal. We are coming off we are coming off a rising explosion level to the downside. And what that often means is that price needs to reset with an extended period of a falling explosion level in consolidation before we can actually get a sustained movement to the upside. And that is assuming that it is even possible to get a sustained trending movement on these altcoins that is not very, very high volatility in short term. We did take an EVX trade. I think we traded this one. Yeah, we traded this one, and I believe we didn't trade this one, but a couple of our guys did trade this one. Anyways, because we got this long signal in EVX right here on the daily. Now let's go to let's look at a few other things. Now, our 30-period Donchian, man, this makes it really, really objective. Like, not even close. Like, there are no longs to be taken this low below the Donchian. If that is acting as your baseline, that makes price pretty objective. So if we're looking for intraday volatility, let's go down to the 4-hour. 4-hour makes this a very nasty trade setup for me. The 4-hour did give you a signal to go long here. Let's actually bring back the baseline and we can look at our Donchian. We did cross our Donchian right there. Did we cross the 13? We did as well. So either baseline would have given you the long signal on this candle right here. Minx crossed above, confirmed with Wadatar explosion. Things looked quite good. You got the powerful signal from Wadatar explosion right here, which you could have taken, and that would have allowed you to catch this pump to the upside. Would you have hit all your take profits? I'm going to assume yes. That was a pretty radical pump. %, movement. Sorry. 16% movement. And so, yes, you would have hit all your take profits really, really nicely on that 4-hour setup. And you should be done for the day. You should be done for the day. Need to jump in this Discord chat and talk philosophy. Amen, brother. So yeah, I do not like the way that this looks. Let's talk about do I see a 4-hour OP that I would be interested in? I mean, you have to understand that I'm approaching altcoins right now with a lot of trepidation, so it's going to take something really glorious to change my opinion. Might need a channel for that. Weapons and shields to be provided. I thought today's episode will be all about Earth cooling phases. Justin, David, and Adam, bro. Yeah, man, you missed it. During the break, had a whole long discussion over it on my other channel. The geopolitical impact of Bitcoin. You guys can find it over on Instagram. Moon phase indicators. Stop. All right, let's plot a scenario out. All right, we'll plot a scenario out that's going to be congruent with the daily baseline. Okay. Got our OB right here. Broke on this candle. So, let's say you are feeling ballsy. All right. So 411, 4054, that would be your buy zone. That would be a complete retracement of this entire level. And assuming, so let's talk about what type of trade setup this is built off of. This trade setup would be built off the idea that this is basically your determining factor for EVX. That level between 411 and 4054. That's your OB. That's your 4-hour OB. That's the last level that got broke. And then you descended into the depths of hell. You came back up, found resistance there for a little bit, and then broke above. And you're looking at this as the candle to be your breaker candle. And you're looking at this now as a bullish breaker. Ideally, what you would want to see is actually some sustained growth to the upside, some consolidation, and then you would buy the retest, right? Then you would buy the retest of the bullish breaker. In the case of... I must have that set to 4-hour only. In the case of the LTFs, did you see that? You're basically right there. You're basically right there on the LTFs. So this is going to be a break, pullback, continuation trade that you would be looking for. So you would be looking for price to basically retreat this entire wick and then have this level act as your new base of support to which for which you would want to take longs off of. I don't really like this setup, man. I'm not going to lie. But we will give you a stop loss. 177. Let's put an average entry here. No, we need to do median. 141. At 39.50, 39.46. But I would also not want to be in this trade if the 4-hour, or probably in this case, the 1-hour closes below 40.54. Now, the other possibility the other possibility is that this does represent a breaker and that you are going to get a run after this, and that was just your first sweep. I don't really think that's actually what it is. I think that this actually looks pretty bearish to me. But let's say that let's say that EVX did break this level of resistance on this candle. Then you would wait for the 4-hour candle to close, and you would enter into your position, and you would take price to the upside. And based off where price is right now, you would be looking for targets of 43.41, 44.82, and 46.23. Basically be looking to retrace that entire area, and your low would pretty much be at the low of that 4-hour candle. Don't really like that setup either. I would not be trading this, but that's the only thing that I see because we can't short this. All right, Neo BTC. Okay, so let's go to the baseline. Unfortunately, Neo does not look good, my brother. So Neo got rejected by the daily baseline. Neo is below the 30-period Donchian. Could not make it over this bearish breaker right here. Not yet, man. You're accumulating the lows, man. Potentially. But yeah, we pumped right. We got the time transformation daily reversal buy signal right here. Price pumped up to the daily baseline. And again, kind of the same strategy. We went below the lower ATR band, came back up. You buy it on the way back up. Take it back up to the daily baseline. And your second target would be if we close above that to be shooting for the upper boundary of volatility, the upper ATR band. But that's not what happened. So dynamic level of support right now, 85,000 sats, man. 85,000 sats is that lower ATR band. So I'd like to see price break 88,690. Minx is threatening it, flipping bullish. Wadatar explosion is flipping bullish. We are coming off a rising explosion level to the downside, and as I said, we often need to see that explosion level reset and fall, which we're right on the verge of. Look at this growth compared to how we've just leveled off. We still have a rising explosion level, but I expect this to cool off, and I do expect these colors to flip. We're also below the dead zone. We're also below the dead zone right now, so. Now let's say we break that upper daily baseline. First level you want to keep your eye on is probably that 30-period Donchian and the upper boundary of volatility, which is pretty congruent, coming in right around there, around 92,000 sats. And then if we can get above that, maybe we can actually get a nice bullish trend out of this. But gosh darn, we haven't seen that on NEO for a while. And even though I quite like NEO, man, we have not seen a nice run on NEO since 2017, man. It's just been down, 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 down. Woo! Looking for intraday opportunity. Looking for intraday opportunity. Nope. I think we had this nice run up right here. Distribution for a little bit and down. Seems the lows right here at about 86,000 sats, but I think you're not really looking for day trade setups. I think your bots are going to be handling that pretty well. I think you're really looking for more sustained movements. Maybe keep your eye open around 86,500 sats, 86,550 sats. Maybe you can catch a long wick down and take it back up maybe to the 4-hour baseline. But that's also going to be penetrating. Well, that's going to be congruent too with going below the 4-hour lower ATR band and then coming back up. So let's say it's time for some dollar cost averaging on NEO. The blockchain of the future. Oh, it's 2:02. Oh my God, it's time to go. I got a lunch date with my developer. Hey, what's going on? Were you there the whole time? I didn't even see you guys. You were just sitting over there the whole time in my studio. You didn't even say hi? Man, scandalous. Hope you like the TA. Hey guys, thank you so much for joining me for another exciting episode of Breaking Bitcoin. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. And of course, be prepared because here comes the end of the show plugs. If you guys want to support the podcast, make sure to go check out breakingbitcoin.money. We are a big boy podcast. You can add us to your favorite podcast catcher. We are available on iTunes, Google Play Music, Google Podcasts, Stitcher. I mean, we're probably, if you got a Podbean, yeah, that's my podcast catcher. So you guys can add us there. Give us a 5-star review on iTunes or whatever platform you happen to be listening from. Might take you just 5 seconds, but it really does help the show out quite a bit. If you guys want to support the show, make sure to subscribe, follow, share, and engage in the comment section down below, where leaving a comment will enter you into an opportunity to win 8,000 Spectre. We are giving away Spectre Security Coin, so big shout out to this month's crypto comment giveaway sponsor, Spectre Security Coin. You can check them out at spectresecurity.io. Let's see here. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, sarcastic remarks, or death threats, that's what you're going to want to leave in the comment section down below, and make sure to hit the thumbs up button if you have not already. And the YouTube algorithm is not going to send you an alert, so make sure you hit the bell icon so you can be notified when we go live every single day at noon Central Daylight Time, and we run until 2 or until my hunger in the late afternoon hours, in the early afternoon hours, overcomes my will to be able to do technical analysis. If you guys would like to join the premium trading group, use our tools and learn our rules, premium.krakencryptocurrency.com. Link down in the description down below. I also recommend you check out that ByBit link down there. Would help out. Now, tomorrow, we're going to be back. Same crypto network, same crypto time. And we are going to see if we get some resolution of this movement to the downside. I'm not going to lie, the technical situation for Bitcoin, I'm looking at the charts behind you guys. I have a big screen on the wall where I have all my charts all the time. The technical situation for Bitcoin and our dollar pairs does not look good right now. Again, just to be very clear, I am in a short. I am in an active short position. I was potentially considering adding to my position earlier. I'm not exactly sure. I'm going to wait to see how price plays out a little bit and see what price looks like at the daily close tonight. But I think the daily close is going to be a pretty telling signal because we will be closing below the daily baseline. I'm also in an active short on EOS, and that's going quite well for me right now. Guys, trade safely. Make sure to hop in the Discord. We'll talk some philosophy. We'll talk some TA. Discord.krakencryptocurrency.com. I'll see you guys tomorrow, man. Trade safely.